there, I'm Jamie Purviance. You know, one of the first things that I learned to grill after I had mastered hot dogs and hamburgers was a great steak. And my favorite thing to accompany a steak was a sun-dried tomato pesto. Because I think just about every steak needs a sidekick, something to bring out the best in the steak. And the sun-dried tomato pesto worked great. But I was thinking lately, all right, what am I going to do to kind of change that up a little bit, to give me something new? And I've come across this sort of sun-dried tomato chimichurri. I'm going to show you how to make this really nice sauce, or kind of like a condiment to serve with a great grilled steak. So chimichurri traditionally is made with Italian or flat leaf parsley. So I'm going to take a bunch of that. And it's okay if you use just the tender stems as well, the leaves and the tender stems. And then very often there's oregano or sometimes cilantro. So I'm going to use a little bit of cilantro in this. And we're going to puree this just like a pesto. And like a pesto, it's going to have some garlic. And I just like the punch of the sun-dried tomato. I think that gives the condiment a little bit more depth. And then I'm going to add some hot chili flakes. And I'm going to puree this up with some oil. Quite a bit of oil. This is an oil-based sauce, so almost half a cup. Enough till you get that sort of smooth pesto consistency. So we'll just start it here and see how it goes. And then we'll add some salt and pepper to taste as well. Just going to add a little salt and pepper at this point. And probably the most important thing that you can do in cooking is taste your food before you serve it. That's really, really good. Like a pesto, but maybe even better. So I'm going to set that aside and get my steaks ready. I've got 4 here that are looking really nice. They're a little over an inch thick, I'd say. Got a nice rich pink color, which is what you're looking for. Definitely an ample amount of fat. If you see fat, particularly on the edges here, you might want to trim that off a little bit because that has a tendency to melt quickly and then flare up on the grill. So we'll prevent some flare-ups that way. A little more perimeter fat over here. I can just trim that off. And these are good to go. So let's get a little spice rub going here. I'm going to have about 3 teaspoons of cumin and the same amount of coriander and 2 teaspoons of salt. Some generous grindings of freshly cracked pepper. Now, these steaks could use some oil on them, although they have so much marbling that you could probably get away without doing it. So maybe I'll just do a little bit to help the seasoning stick, but you don't have to go nuts. You're not going to have any problem with sticking. And then a good amount of seasoning. Remember that a certain percentage of this is probably just going to fall off. So a good amount. And then, as I always say, you know, leave these steaks out for a good 20 to 30 minutes. You'll find that the salt will begin to draw a little bit of moisture to the surface of the steak, and that begins to be the foundation of this crust, this really flavorful crust that develops on the outside of the steak. So there it is. I'm good to go. I'm going to set up my grill and put the meat to the heat. Now I recommend grilling steaks like these directly over high heat. That's where the flames are right underneath the food. And when the steaks hit that preheated grate, you want to hear that sizzle and see that smoke. Those are really good signs that you're getting a good sear on the surface of the steak. You want to close the lid as soon as possible and trap all that good smoke and heat. And then turn the steaks after about 3 or 4 minutes when they've got some nice caramelization going on. and sear them on the second side. Again, the idea is to develop that really flavorful crust. Cook them for however long as you like, whatever doneness you prefer, but medium rare is going to take somewhere between 6 to 8 minutes total. And then they're going to come out looking gorgeous, just like this. Beautiful grill marks, nice flavor on the outside, beautifully juicy on the inside. I hope you'll try this recipe. It's a real winner, and I hope you'll agree with me that this sun-dried tomato chimichurri is a great new condiment for grilled steaks.